God is far better to us than we deserve. I'm reminded of that this Christmas season. We come together and we sing songs like we have. And so this morning, what we're going to do as we're beginning this Christmas season is we want to celebrate what God is doing in the life of our church. And so this morning, we're going to be celebrating some things that God has done over the course of this past year. Next week, we're going to have an opportunity to celebrate what God is doing outside of the walls of His church through various people, through various ministries. On the 18th, we're going to be celebrating what God is doing in other parts of the world, much of that part of what God is doing through you as a church. And so this morning, the thing that I want to celebrate, it really started for me in the spring of 2015 when God began to birth a desire and a burden in my heart. And the burden and the desire was this, that the Church of Jesus Christ needs to be on the front lines of engaging in areas where there are children who are without homes, who are in situations where they are not loved and they are not cared for. And so I began to pray with a group of people early in 2015, and through the course of that year, we met in the room over here on the side, and we prayed and we talked and we planned, and we took a trip together, and we began to formulate this idea that we as a church could make a difference in the area of fostering and adopting. And so what we saw happen is in January of this year, you as a church began to rise up. And a number of people have made the commitment to begin either fostering or adopting. And then many more have said, we're going to come along beside those who are fostering and adopting. We're going to wrap around them and we're going to support them. And so here's the challenge that we face, the challenge that we faced then and that we're making a difference in now. In LaFleur County, there are some 150 children who right now are in foster care or who need to be placed in some kind of care setting. There are over 350 children in Oklahoma on any given day that are ready to be adopted. And so there's this significant challenge, this significant problem, and here's the cool part, or for me at least, the government is realizing they can't fix this. And guess where it is that they're turning? They're realizing because this challenge is bigger than what we can fix, it's bigger than what we can accomplish, they're turning to the church. And so I've got something that I want us to all celebrate together because the government is looking toward the church and we have an opportunity to rise up and make a difference. I want you to consider this reality right here. This is about 11 months out from when we really began and we launched. I stand here today and I say to the glory of God that if every church would do what you are doing, if you have some role in what we're doing here as a church, you're supporting a family, you're wrapping around them, or you're actually fostering or adopting. If every church would do what you were doing, every child in LaFleur County would be loved and cared for in Jesus' name. And to me, I celebrate that God is working through you. If every church would say, yeah, we're going to go and we're going to engage in this need, we're going to help families, love families, support families where there are needs, then there would be no more children who don't have the love and care in Jesus' name. And so what we want to do this morning is we simply want to celebrate. We want to celebrate that verses like James chapter 1, verse 27, where we are told that pure and undefiled religion in the sight of our God and Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their distress and to keep oneself unstained by the world. We want to celebrate today that verses like this are not just verses on a page. They're not just verses in the Bible. These are actually verses that people from this body are taking and living out. They're not verses that are just remaining head or theory. These are verses that people are saying, we're actually going to take our religion so seriously, our relationship with Jesus Christ so seriously, that we're going to live this out. And for anyone who would say of us that we are just pro-life while the child is in the womb, not after, we're going to make liars out of folks like that. We're going to rise up and we're going to say we're pro-life while the child is in the womb, but guess what? We're pro-life once the child is out of the womb too. We love life. We believe God gave us life. And so when we see verses like this that call us to care for orphans and widows in their distress, we're going to rise up and we're going to care for orphans. When we see verses like Psalm 82:3, it tells us to defend the cause of the weak and the fatherless. We're not going to ignore the cause of the weak and the fatherless. We're going to defend. And so this morning I want us to celebrate together. And the way that I want us to celebrate is the same as we did in the first service. I want you to hear the stories of people who are on the front lines making a difference. I referred to them as heroes in the first service, and I will do the same again. They don't think of themselves as heroes at all, but the people who are involved in fostering and adopting, they need to be honored today. And I would love it if you, together with me, as we invite them up, you would just show your recognition. And so we're going to hear their stories today. And as I invite them up, would you give them a big Cross Community Church welcome as they make their way to the stage and share their story with you about what God is doing through them. And so the first couple that I'm going to invite up here right now is Lee and Stacy Jones. Lee and Stacy Jones, would you make your way up here today? Come on up here. The next couple is Russell and Patricia Smith. Russell and Patricia, would you make your way up here? And Lindsay Anderson. I know Lindsay is around here somewhere. There she is. Lindsay, come on up here if you would. All right. Well, it's good to see everybody here today. I had folks do this in the first service. Can everybody out there give a big smile and just wave? Like, act real friendly, really nice. We break the ice with everybody. They are all nice people. They love you, and they're glad that you're here. And so they're honored that we get a chance to hear your story. And so we'll start off just by sharing a little bit about your background. We've introduced you as you come up here, but tell us a little bit about the child that you have, their name, whatever information you're able to give, and how you got to the place of adopting or fostering that child. Now, everybody's circumstances up here are different, and one of the things I want you to see today is that there's no cookie-cutter approach to doing this. Russell and Patricia have gone through this process years before. They have wisdom and perspective, looking at things with hindsight, and the rest of you are kind of in this process somewhere, so share a little bit with us. I'll just let you start, Lee, just about what led you to the place where you're at right now. Tell us the name of your boy and girl and where you are in the process.
Well, our story is actually very funny in a sense. We have two children of our own, and just up and one day my wife calls me and says, "Hey, are you okay with us having another child?" I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of taken back. I was like, "No, it's not gonna happen." And the funny part about that is I went and had a vasectomy less than a year of us having our second child. And so it was very funny. It took me back. I'm like, there's no way. It's not going to happen. It's just not possible. Well, you could have a reversal. No. Not gonna go and pay money for something my insurance paid for in full.
Yeah. Yep.
To get undone.
Let's keep it real, but not too real.
Exactly. So, no, we ain't gonna do that. So we talked about it for probably a year, and we had a come to Jesus moment. To be honest, that we started seeing the staggering numbers of the children out there that are just in LaFleur County alone, and her being Choctaw, we seen how easy it was, or so we thought, to be able to get eligible to adopt or foster. So we decided, yeah, sure, we'll look into adopting. So that's what we did. We looked into adopting at first, and you go and you go through the classes, you get certified, you do all the tasks that you have to do to get there, and then you realize, well, this isn't quite as easy as what you think. Mm-hmm. You don't get the calls that you think that you're going to get. You start to question, well, is this really what I'm supposed to do? And then we actually, again, had another come to Jesus moment, and we prayed about it and thought, well, maybe we just need to open ourselves to the foster status. And so we prayed about it, and just that's what we did. We decided, well, we're going to foster. And it was like within a day, we're getting calls left and right for not just one, but multiple siblings. And we're like, those staggering numbers go from staggering to enormous. And that's kind of what led us to where we're at today. We have a 3-year-old boy. His name is Gage. We actually picked him up from the hospital when he was 5 days old. We were able to adopt him last June. And we just, at that point in time, we thought that we were done. And we decided that, well, maybe we need to rethink this and consider some more fostering and to help some more children. And then we get a call. Well, another one of them come to Jesus moments. We run into our caseworker, and she said, hey, did you know his mother had another child? No, we didn't, because she's in jail. How is that possible? And we're just kind of opened our hearts up, and it broke us. Both of us cried. I ain't gonna lie, I cried. That we needed to keep these siblings together. So we told them, we made a call the next day. We want this child. We want this child to be in our lives. We want her to be with her brother. So we have her. She's 10 months, and we're in the process of hoping everything goes smooth, praying daily, everything goes as it should, that we're able to adopt her as well.
Amen. That's awesome. Awesome. Good stuff.
All right. My husband had to leave out for work early this morning, so I don't know if that was a coincidence or what, but anyway, he left me here to speak on my own. But when we got married, we started out trying to have children. That's just something that I don't know if it was just a career choice or what for me, but that's what I've wanted to be forever. As long as I can remember, is I wanted to be a mom. We were into our marriage about 2 years and still couldn't have children. We went through quite a few tests and whatnot, and things probably could have been done for us to have children of our own. But for some reason, we started kind of looking in other directions. Like I said, we were early into our marriage, so we didn't quite have the savings account we needed to maybe go through like a private adoption. So we looked through DHS, and then we heard that the Choctaws actually had pretty much like a DHS of their own. So I'm Choctaw, and we decided to go in that direction. Like Lee was talking, it's not really as easy as you think it is. There's lots of steps to get you qualified, but we made it through it. There were several Saturdays we had to do parenting classes, and they were not fun at all. We would sit in the car and have to talk each other into it. One Saturday he talked me into it, the next Saturday I have to talk him into it. I'm like, come on, we're almost done. We can do it. But it all paid off. Once we got all of that, the paperwork and all that done, we started getting several phone calls for multiple siblings. I don't really know. Actually, I do. It was just all God. There were several phone calls we get, and my heart would be in it, and he would just say, I don't know if that would work out for us. But, when we got the call for our daughter Peyton, which is now 9, we both knew this is the one. She was 5.5 months old when we picked her up. It took us about 1.5 years to get that finalized. That's another thing that you think it's all going to go smoothly. Your caseworkers tell you this is how it's going to go. She's ready to be adopted. This is how it's going to go. And then the next day, it doesn't go that way. And I'm just telling you, that's the truth of it. It's really hard, really, really hard. You've got to go through the court system. You got to wait for caseworkers to do their job. You got to wait for the judge to do his job, the DA, everybody. That's not something that I'm good with. I like to have control. So it took a lot of praying for me, but my husband and I both have wonderful, wonderful praying parents and families, and that got us through this, and I know it got them through that also. Like I said, it took 1.5 years to adopt Peyton, but it was so worth it. All of the stress and the headache and the worries, it was completely worth it. We went about 3 years just living our wonderful life with Peyton, and we knew that she needed a sibling. We knew we wanted to have more than one child. We got a phone call one day. Actually, our caseworker had come back by just to do, like their yearly check, home study. And she said, "Are you guys considering adopting more children?" I said, "Yeah, we're thinking about it, but we don't really know if this is the time." Well, the next day she called and she said, "Guess what? We have a little baby boy that was just born." And my husband was like, "Oh, boy, yeah. We got a girl, now we need a boy." So we were just, okay, we'll do it. I mean, it was just that quick of a decision. They called back a couple hours later and said, "It's a girl." It's not a little boy, it's a girl. So he was kind of like, "I don't know. I really wanted a boy." We went through that night. We had 24 hours to make this decision. We went that night. We got all the bedding, got everything ready. By the time we went to bed that night, he was like, "I don't really know. I really wanted a boy, and I don't know if this is right. Maybe it's the wrong time." And we both prayed and prayed about it and, tried to sleep on it. Next morning, he was going to go on to work. And he told me this later on. He called my mom that morning on the way to work. And Mom talked with him and prayed with him over the phone. He turned around and came back home. And that day at noon, we went and picked up our second daughter, Allie. So she was just 2 days old. We picked her up straight from the hospital. And it also took us about 1.5 years to get her adopted. Things got a little scary through her adoption. We had a visitation that we had to do with the birth mother. A lot of things that weren't supposed to happen. When we adopted, or when we brought her home, things were supposed to go really fast, really quick. Just the situation that it was with the biological mother, rights were supposed to be terminated, things were supposed to go quickly, but it didn't. It kind of just went the total opposite. But we got through it. God knew she was supposed to be with us, and it was about 1.5 years, and we adopted her also. Allie is now 6. So we were pretty sure that our family is set. But I want to encourage anybody and everybody, if you have it on your heart at all to adopt or to foster, just know, I know I've heard many, many people say, I don't know if we're ready. I don't know if this is the time. I don't know if our family is in the right situation. And there are a lot of things that you have to get set. You have to get ready. But just know that no child is ever ready to be an orphan. So when you say you don't know if you're ready, they weren't ready either. They were not.
That preaches.
It has been such a blessing. And I know that, like Brian had called us heroes, and I was actually thinking about that on the way here. I should have worn my hero shirt. And then I thought, no, I liked the shirt. But at the same time, we did not do this for us. I know, yes, we wanted a child. But you have no idea what they do for you. It has changed our lives so much. And also has changed my view of the situations that these children are in, the judgment I had for their parents. Life is a struggle, and the addiction and the problems that they have in their lives, it's not something we need to sit back and judge about. And I did that when we first brought both of these girls home. I thought, how could they do that? how could they let this happen? But life is a struggle, and they don't need you to judge them. They need you to pray for them.
Yes.
They're giving you a life to love and to call your own. So you need to love on them too.
We say amen to that. That's powerful, Lindsay. Russell and Trish.
When we were dating and early in our marriage, we knew we wanted children. I think we knew we wanted several. We wanted a big family, and I think the fact that I was a social worker in child welfare opened us up to the idea of adopting through DHS, and so we applied with DHS, within the first few years of our marriage. We found out pretty quickly, too, that we were going to have some fertility problems. We had trouble conceiving, and were told twice by an OBGYN that we would not ever be able to conceive. So we were child hungry, to say the least. We wanted children, and after about 4.5 years of marriage, we providentially met an 18-year-old young woman from Detroit in Wilson, Oklahoma, which is the other side of Ardmore. And about 7 months, she was 2 months pregnant at that point. 7 months later, we attended the birth of our first daughter. I got to cut the cord. Trish was a labor coach, and that was one of the most beautiful moments of our lives. And she is now 28 years old, 29 years old. Still no birth children. A year later, we lived in Ardmore, and I was at the children's shelter, and there was a 16-year-old, kind of a bubbly teenage girl there, and I asked and found out that she had been placed in an adoptive home in Ardmore, and that adoption failed because another child in the home demanded that she be removed, and so they put her back in the shelter. I called my wife, and I said, "You want to adopt a 16-year-old?" Jokingly, expecting her to say, "Ha, ha, ha." And she said, "Well, let's talk about it." And so we talked about it, and we adopted a 16-year-old, which changed our family dramatically. She brought her own personal personality, unique personality to our home, and she blessed us with our first grandchildren as well. So after that, we figured we were already crazy, and so we adopted, the next year we birthed a child, which is impossible, but we did anyway. And then the year after that, which would be 1990, we welcomed a sibling group of 3 teenagers into our home, 16, 14, and 13. The 14-year-old was a girl who only stayed about 7 months, and we finally had to give up and say, "Okay, you can leave." But the boys stayed, and so we finalized adoption on 2 teenage boys, and then it was a few years after that we birthed our son Isaac, and then 2 years after that our son Josiah, which completed our family. We would do it again. We would do any of it again, and possibly more. The rewards are great. The struggle is real. If you raise children, it doesn't always go smoothly, and so there have been challenges, but there have been a lot more rewards and blessings than there have been challenges, and they're all worth it. So
Good stuff.
we're thankful.
Good stuff. Stacy, can you speak to? I feel like He's placed a burden, I know, on your heart for this cause, and can you speak to that? What He's doing in your life through this whole situation?
Do we have enough time?
Yeah.
Well, I agree with Lindsay. The only thing I ever knew I wanted to be was a wife and a mother, and I never thought, then what I know now looking back, I have mothered in every way possible. I have been a stepmother, I have been a foster mother, I have been a biological mother, and an adoptive mother, and fulfilled I have purpose in my life. I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. Everything looking back has totally been orchestrated by God. And once you get on this side of it and you see the numbers, you see how great the need is, and you get to experience those blessings and stuff, I'll do everything I can. I can't take them all in. You know, if we could build a bigger house and buy vans or whatever, you know, he might not go along with me, but I would take as many as I could. But I would advocate for any home for any child, and I agree with Lindsay. If it has crossed your mind at all, if you've even considered it, if you have a heart for it at all, there shouldn't be any doubting. I know it's normal. You will doubt. Even now, we've already adopted them. Like, am I still giving this child what he needs? Can I, you know, you doubt your parental skills sometimes, but you know without a shadow of a doubt that this is commanded by God in the Bible. If you've considered it and you have a heart for it, there should be nothing stopping you. I know sometimes timing is an issue, and that's fine, but, you know, whether you do it now or do it later, it needs to happen.
Can you speak to, Trish, this may be a good question for you, can you speak to the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome through this whole process? What was the most challenging part?
Well, definitely when we had to make the decision to let the 14-year-old go back. That was really hard. And just through teen years was for all of our kids, not just the adopted ones.
Can anybody say amen to that? No, that would be a challenge, yeah.
I have to really say there definitely were struggles, but everything has been worth it, and far more joy than struggles.
Good. Well, can you share with us the greatest highlight through this whole process? Lee, what would it be?
When we go out in the public and we talk about the adoption process, the foster process, really there's the one thing that I can say that's been the joy through the whole thing is I actually have a picture of my wife and our 3-year-old on my phone. When we went on vacation, he was just the happiest kid you've ever seen in your life. Having that picture to look at on a daily basis, knowing that we did that, that God did that for us.
Stacy, for you, the greatest highlight?
Yeah, for sure. Seeing the joy on those kids' faces. Things like knowing that they'll have a birthday party. Things like knowing that they're going to have care when they're sick. Because if they were in another home, you don't know if they're going to be taken to the doctor, if they're even going to be paid attention to. Just knowing that they have a chance, that they have an opportunity.
That's good. Lindsay, greatest struggle? Or no, I'm sorry, greatest highlight. Greatest highlight.
Every day of it. Every day of it. The day we picked them up, September 24th and December 30th. Those were both their adoption days. Just every day. Every day is a highlight. What both of them have said, the joy on their faces, every family picture that you take.
Yeah.
Because that's your family. Those are your children.
Trish, greatest highlight?
Our grandchildren.
Oh.
Yes, the blessing of adopting teenagers, you have grandchildren a lot sooner, and so we've been blessed with 17 grandchildren.
Yeah.
So.
That's probably better than pressuring your young kids to
Oh,
start.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. We
Yeah.
love it.
Probably bad joke.
She stole my line. But relationships. We have family vacations. Now, we had Thanksgiving. We had 19 at our house for Thanksgiving, and we didn't have any drama. But that's not always the case. We do have drama, but the relationships. Psalm 127 says that children are a gift and a reward. So how many of you would like to receive gifts from God? How many of you would like to have rewards from God. But a lot of times we go, no, 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 no. I'll take all these other gifts, but not that. And I don't think that's God's heart. When we were struggling to have children, when we were wanting children badly, we started praying a prayer that we prayed for years, and that was, God, give us all the children you have for us. And we trust that he answered that prayer, and I would encourage you, if you're in the childbearing years, you can pray for grandchildren too, but pray that God gives you the heart for and the children that he wants you to have.
Yeah. Speak to someone who is even remotely considering either fostering or adoption. What do you say to them, Lee?
I'll go back to the last question, the joy that they're going to bring to your life. And I'm not going to say the joy you bring to theirs, but the joy that they're going to bring to your life, what they're going to do for you, for your heart, your mindset, and life in general.
Stacy?
Yeah, it just kind of repeats itself there, I think. Just if you've ever considered it, just do it. Don't jump in head first. God's called you to do it. If you've had it placed on your heart, it's commanded out of the Bible.
And they have at least 5 people they can call, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Lindsay?
I just want to remind you that, be real about it. It is going to be a struggle. It is. Like I said, you gotta wait on others. You gotta depend on their decisions, on what's going to take place daily in your life and in their lives. But it's so worth it.
Can you make this statement one more time, that if you're not sure if you're ready or not, that no child can
No child is ready to be an orphan.
Yeah.
If that's your response to it, that you're just not ready, they're not ready to be an orphan. Like I said, it's a struggle, but what in life isn't? And God's not going to give you anything that you can't handle. You think you can't. You might be getting by on the skin of your teeth, but you can do it. It can be done.
Good. Trish?
All children need a forever family. And I think that's what God has blessed us with, knowing that our children, all of our children, have a forever family, and they have grandparents for their children. And just in the generations to come, you're not only blessing this first generation, but you're blessing generations to come.
Amen.
I think I already answered it. Pray and obey.
Good, good. Can we give them a big round of applause together in the church? Thank you. I know today you'd say we're not heroes, but we want you to feel honored and supported and loved, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for taking the steps that you have taken. If you are here and you've considered taking a step forward in fostering or adopting, we have Lance Hammond. He's here from the DHS today. He'll be out in the Welcome Center, and he would be glad to visit with you. Any of these folks who are here on stage would love to be an advocate. You can call them, talk to them, connect with them. We're having 3 different sets of people. First service was powerful. This service was powerful. And I don't know about you, but I thank God that we're in a church that 3 different sets of people are going to come up here and share their heart the way that they have shared with us and blessed us today. And so I'm going to close just by praying a prayer of blessing for them, over them. And would you please pray with me, church? We're going to pray for their families, for their children, for them, and what God is doing in them. So as I pray, if you're an usher, if you would go ahead and make your way forward here. Let's pray. Father, I thank you this morning for Jesus. I thank you for the hearts of every person who has been on this stage, who has shared. I thank you for these stories. I thank you for the unsung heroes who have been in their in the background, like Lindsay said, the moms and the dads and the people who have prayed and supported and done everything that they could. I pray that we would be a church here that takes seriously this call to defend the cause of the weak and the fatherless, that we would not turn a blind eye to those who are in need. Our ultimate prayer is that every child in the Flor County would come to know for themselves the love and the care of Jesus Christ. And so that's what we want to see happen. We pray that you would continue working to that end. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Give them one more hand if you would. Thank you very much. We learned a lot in